Hi. In this video, I'll be going over an article I just wrote, and I'll have a link in the description. The first part is a little bit of backstory. I was sad to hear about RxJS and Qwik that it can't be serialized. I basically thought it meant that you can't use it at all. And so I looked at how to at least create some declarative asynchronous behavior in Qwik, just like you can do in React. And that was a video I posted or uploaded a couple weeks ago. But as I mentioned in my last video, I decided to give it another try because Yaroslav decided to give me a push, and we did a video together. And I'll put the link in this video's description again. It got me interested in actually really looking into the details of what role RxJS could play if we did use it in Qwik. So in that video, he kind of had me go step by step and put some extra behavior inside of a Qwik component and see what worked and what didn't work. So I'm going to do a quick overview of that right now with some real code, not just these snippets. And the first thing to understand is, this is really messy, but the first thing to understand is what needs to be serializable and what doesn't need to be serializable. So this is a component function. Everything in the top level inside the component might need to be serialized, but only if it's used inside here, inside like a use watch hook or like an event handler, basically a $, like where code is going to be split. Because if it's used here, then it needs to be part of the lexical scope that gets used in these split off pieces of code. So if it's in here, if it's in the main component body or whatever, it needs to be, it doesn't have to be serialized or serializable if you're just going to use it in the template. So you can use a function like this, and there's no problem using that at all. I'm using that right here, and it's working just fine. That is the 567 here. Yeah, as you can see, it returns 567. Okay, so that didn't need to be serialized. However, if we use it in a component or in the event handler or the side effect, the use watch. So yeah, let's put it here. Now we're calling it inside the click handler that is being split off. And Qwik is super pissed right now. It says only primitive and object literals can't be serialized. So we can't do that. Oh, look, and it gives us a warning here. I have ESLint only running when I save the file because I hate getting those warnings as I'm typing. But yeah, this is saying it can't access it outside the scope because it is a function which is not serializable. So that's pretty cool that it warns you like that. So I'll get rid of that, and let's try it up here, and we'll get the same thing. So put it here, and it will, again, yay, we get the same ESLint problem. And the compiler is not upset. I don't know why it's not upset. Why isn't that upset? Huh, weird. Let's see if it's running. What's going on? Oh, looks like Vite didn't really clean up the last port I was using, so now it's running on 5174. Okay. Oh, that's one more. All right, here we go. And here we go. Yeah. So why didn't it? Oh, well, Oh, I got rid of it again. Okay, now if I add it back, there we go. Now it gets really mad. Okay. Another limitation is when you're trying to use something from outside, you need to export it. So if you use it anywhere in here, it's going to get mad. Yeah, it's going to say you need to export it. So we export that and it will fix it. Not re-rendered. I didn't get rid of this yet. Okay. There. That should do it now. Oh, that is, no, that's not that. Huh, what's going on here? Oh, is this another weird Vite issue? Huh. I got rid of that and it's working. So what's the deal? I'm not sure. Okay, it was just, I have no idea why it wasn't working. I just saved it, and it's been a little buggy with Vite and Qwik. I'm not sure which it is because it's my really first time using either of them. But anyway, there it is, that too. So it works if you export it. Okay, that covers everything we need to know for now. So things need to either be exported if they're used outside or used from outside the component, or they need to be, well, that's always the case. Or if they're defined in here, and if they're used in a split off section of code, they need to be serializable. But otherwise, it can be whatever you want it to be in here, or it could be exported as anything you want it to be. Okay. So let's talk about async behavior. Ideally, a Qwik app can be paused at any state and then transferred somewhere else and then resumed in the exact same state that it was paused in. But in order for it to be paused, it has to be serializable. So anything that isn't serializable will not be part of Qwik's frozen state or whatever. It won't be part of the HTML that gets transferred. And so it will just get dropped. So I would like to figure out how to avoid that, ideally, for asynchronous behavior. So I tried to figure out how to represent async behavior as state. Like, is there a way to take, these asynchronous tasks that are sort of ongoing, and then if we hit pause on the app, that it will somehow condense that into serialized state that can be like unpaused and restored to where it was. I think that would be ideal. But this kind of reminds me of React and Redux, where we had a promise of the ability to take the global state object in Redux and drop it in any app, and then it'd restore it in exactly the same state, but it would ignore asynchronous tasks that were ongoing. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was impossible to do this, but also nobody really cared that it couldn't do that either. So I want to try to get this to work, but if it doesn't, I don't think it's the end of the world. So let's just think about an example. Let's say we have a type ahead with like a really long debounce of like 3 seconds. So when you type it, and then after 1.5 seconds, if we try to pause the Qwik app, is there a way we can serialize that so that if it's restored somewhere else or resumed, it will resume it with 1.5 seconds left on the timeout or the debounce or whatever. Then it could like resume the behavior exactly where it left off. So in order to do that, we'd have to serialize that set timeout for the debounce. And it turns out there actually is a way to take a timeout and figure out how much time it has left, which I didn't know before I looked into this. But the problem is there are like 2 places you might try to do this, depending on where you set the timeout. So if you have like a type, on key up listener or something on the input for the type ahead, if you set the timeout in there, I don't believe there is any way to run code when the app is being serialized. So if you call pause or whatever the function, I don't know how to do it with Qwik. But I think there might be some global function you can call that will put it in a paused state. But I don't think you can run any code inside of a Qwik handler. Even if you can, there is a problem still, which we have in the alternative method anyway. So, and the other problem is if you do that on KeyUpListener and you have the behavior all there, that input never got saved in state. So when it gets serialized, the app gets serialized, that what they typed doesn't get restored. So that's a problem. So a better way to do it would be to make the on KeyUp handler as minimal as possible. Just have it push the input to a Qwik store, and this is more reactive anyway. And then in like a use watch, you'd listen to that value in the Qwik store and run the code that sets the timeout, and then you have access to a cleanup function. But when you run code in the cleanup function, if you try to set state in there, it's going to not be part of what's being serialized now. That gets put in the queue for the next render, and so it's not captured in what you're serializing. So you couldn't set the timeout and then have a cleanup function that grabs the remaining time for the timeout and saves that in state. So this is like just like a starting point that I tried just to see if it was possible to approach async behavior in general in a way that's serializable. And at least in the way Qwik implements it, it's not possible. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But even if that was possible, it'd be a huge amount of work to try to figure out how to get it to work with RxJS. But it was fun to try. Another thing I had been looking into for a long time, but never actually figured out, was the behavior with promises with Qwik. So I looked more into that when I was writing this article, and I have a promise in here. It turns out if you have any promise that's used here or like inside the component, I gotta share my screen. Yeah. So here's a promise, resolves after 5 seconds. If you're using this promise anywhere here, like, where do I use it in here? Yeah, B. I'm referring to it just in a Qwik handler. But this still causes Qwik to wait for it to resolve before it renders a component at all. So if you save this, the app, you see it's like loading up here. It's loading. After 5 seconds, it gets, like the server sends it, the rendered app. So when they say they serialize promises, what actually happens is they serialize resolved promises. So any promise that you're using anywhere, no matter what in the component, if you're actually using it, it's going to try to serialize it. If it tries to serialize it, it's going to wait for it to resolve, and then it's just going to get that resolved value. It's just going to serialize that. If you look at the, let's see, what was the resolved value that I returned? It was called resolved value. Okay. If you look at the, where is this? Yeah, Qwik.json. If you look in here for resolved value, where is it? I'm going to pause while I find it. Right here. It's just a string. It's as if the promise wasn't even there. It just converts it into whatever it resolved to. So, I don't know if they're going to change this behavior with out-of-order streaming or something like that. They mentioned with Qwik beta, with that blog post when they launched Qwik beta, they mentioned something about out-of-order streaming. I don't really know what that means. So this behavior might get more advanced in the future. And there might be some mechanism for taking advantage of this more, but I'm not sure about it. But either way, I thought maybe I could use a promise to this behavior with promises to not allow Qwik to serialize the app until the async behavior is finished. I'm not sure what's better or if that would be acceptable, because in one case you're ignoring the async behavior and so you're restoring to the state before it. The other, you're forcing the server to wait for the promises to resolve. And then you're serializing after and you're including everything when it's done. The issue with this is RxJS is like intended to not complete all the time. So even if you figure this out, it wouldn't be good enough for RxJS because RxJS streams are supposed to, like some of them are never supposed to complete. So this wouldn't really be adequate for RxJS-based async behavior anyway. Maybe it can be used for something, but not for RxJS. So at this point, I was out of ideas, so I decided to just look into what Yaroslav and I were sort of exploring more in the video we did. And that is just sort of don't even worry about serializing it. Just use it on the client, because in practice, you're not going to pause an app after it's already in the client and then transfer it to another client and resume it. That's kind of the ideal for Qwik, but in practice, even if you do have to do that, I don't think it's the end of the world if you drop the async behavior. So most of the time, it's going to render once on the server, get transferred to the client, and resume, and then that'll be it. So if we can get RxJS working for that case, I think most developers will be happy. So that's what I tried to look more into. But not even that's going to be totally simple, because we still want to lazy load everything. And that's the thing that Yaroslav and I didn't really look into. I mentioned that was an ideal, and I'd figured it out on my own eventually. But it is a challenge to figure out how to integrate RxJS with Qwik stores so that interacting causes a Qwik store to change, and then RxJS loads up. So that's what I looked into. Like, that was the main problem. So thinking about the type ahead example, if the type ahead is like how we've been already talking about with like a 3-second delay or whatever, the way I think about it is I think about it in terms of React first, because React is a little simpler conceptually, because it's like Qwik is like next level. It's like a layer of sophistication on top of what React does. But RxJS in a React-like framework, what you want it to do is just handle the async behavior, and you use it in kind of a limited way. But it's like in an app, basically you have events, and then async behavior, and then state gets set, and then after that, everything renders synchronously. Except in Qwik asynchronously, but still kind of the same conceptually. So the role that RxJS plays is just that async part in React. So with our debounce, if you type, then RxJS can handle like the debounce time, distinct digital change, filter, and all that stuff. It's kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but I'm just going to show you the RxJS because I have it written right here. Yeah, so this is the realm of RxJS, the switch map, all this async stuff, all right? So what we want to have happen is nothing at first. It renders on the server. Nothing interesting is happening yet. Just initial state is rendered into HTML. That's transferred to the client. And then you don't do anything until a user types. At that point, what you need is the RxJS stream to be defined, and then you need a subscription to occur so that you listen. But the type ahead, it's going to first put it into a store, a Qwik store, and then that's like your Qwik stores are like your touch points or whatever you call it, like the place where things get triggered, because you have a use watch that will run only after an interaction happens. That will lazy load all the RxJS stuff, and then but you also want a way to get the value that you put into the type ahead, like the Qwik store. You want to put that inside a behavior subject, because Qwik stores are like behavior subjects. It's holds state, like current state. So it's not a subject, it's a behavior subject. Once you get that use watch to trigger, it has to create a behavior subject for that Qwik store. Okay. I could get into the implementation details, but it's pretty complicated because I had something initially and then ended up not being good enough because of other scenarios. So I came up with a scenario that kind of, I think, has all the behavior that's needed for RxJS and Qwik. And it should be anything that RxJS could offer Qwik. So then I rethought how to do it, and it's actually kind of a complicated architecture to explain. So I'm going to do that in another article and video. So I'll save that for later. But I basically wanted to show you the API I came up with and the behavior, the basic behavior. Okay, so here it is. This is the first use case I will demo. What we're looking at here is two inputs. This input is used directly in the type ahead. I'll show you like the debounce. So you got search A. In the API I came up with, you grab observables by passing in the Qwik store that represents the observable or subject, and pass that into Rx, and it will grab it from like a global object that is exported so that you can use it anywhere. But yeah, you can define it. It's not the most minimal API. It's doing multiple things here. It's making Qwik happy and RxJS. So, anyway, so this first search input is used primarily, but also we're combining latest with the backward search, which comes from search input B. So we're combining this and the backward search, which comes from B. So you can imagine lines going from here to here, from here to here to here. And then we have interval, which is sort of doing its own thing. It kind of has nothing to do with anything. Or does it? Hang on. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it is actually used. Oh, so I'm like, what I'm doing is I'm having it be part of this array of sources that need to be defined. But it's not actually used in the type ahead. So, not sure why I did that. You wouldn't normally do this, so I wouldn't pay attention to this. Maybe I should find a way to incorporate it. Yeah, I probably should. Yeah, let me add that real quick. So just like we're grabbing Rx here with the combined latest with, can we do multiple in here? I hope so. I think that works, and then we'll do count, I guess, and just append that to our search term. So yep, there it is. All right, now it makes more sense. Now it's actually depending on it, so that's nice. This is what I wanted anyway. Like this is how I wired it up. Yeah, you really wouldn't pass it in as a dependency unless you're actually using it. I wish there was another way to do this, but you have to specify it up here as well as here. So this is pure RxJS. This is pure Qwik stores. It's just how it had to be. So, hopefully someone can come with something better, but you'll see what I had to do to get this to work when I do the next article and video. Okay, so that's the basic behavior that's going on right now. I do blue outlines if the RxJS has loaded. So this means the app has been resumed, or I don't know what you call it. It's interactive again. Now I think resume is just like when it's ready to be interactive, which is like immediately. But yeah, so I have it. Did you see like it was gray first? when it turned blue, that meant it activated. So it's all loaded, and it's one continuous stream now, one RxJS stream connecting all these things, and a subscription has been made. So this interval will tick. I think I set it to 30 seconds, but no, that's 10 seconds. So actually will go to 0 because that's what interval emits first, but after a few seconds it'll turn to 1, I think. Yeah, there's a bug. It's not actually ticking. I wonder why. Okay, let me look into this real quick. Okay, it was as simple as tracking the store ID, which means the observable has been defined. Okay, so I'll go more to that in the next one, but let me just double check that all the same behavior still works. So, I'll just go through it with you. So what happens here in this example, I'm going to change this back to 10 seconds because why not? The reason it's loading immediately is because of this down here. Use subscribe client. What this does is it internally has a use client effect. And yeah, it causes a chain reaction where all the RxJS will load upstream, and then all the pipes will get defined all the way down, and then it subscribes, and then everything runs. So that's what happens with this, but there's also the regular use subscribe, which I'm going to change it to show you the next behavior. Now nothing's going to load until I interact. There. So it turned blue. So I'm going to refresh. It turned blue, which means all the RxJS is there. But like it's going to pass the value down immediately. Wait, what just happened? Oh, the interval emitted. Okay. So that's happening. Anyway, so it'll define it, and then it'll go through the RxJS stream and go there. So, whatever is part of, there's a graph of reactivity with RxJS streams, and anything that uses anything, it's all part of the same web. And all RxJS has to load in order to set up those streams. Because from the top, you have no idea if you're performing unnecessary work until everything loads and you see a subscription at the very end. There's no way to figure it out any other way. I mean, maybe somebody can come up with some trick that works, but I thought about it for a while and it would be really, really difficult. So it kind of makes sense to me that this is the only way to do this, because it'd be nice, ideally, to only load what you need and then sort of output there. But if any of the pipes going down that depend on this top subject or behavior subject, if any of them don't have a subscription, you're loading something that's unnecessary, and you're possibly having it do work that's unnecessary. So in order to know what behavior should actually happen, in RxJS you kind of depend on this, that nothing happens until you subscribe. So for RxJS, you actually do need to load all the way to the bottom to see if you need to do any work yet, if the functionality needs to actually start. So that's why everything turns blue at the same time. Yeah. Okay, now let's look into this interval thing. Why does that trigger everything to load? So let's see. Why would it? Because now we're tracking the ID. If we're doing use subject, I mean, this should not actually do anything. Let's change this interval down to 1 so we can debug it. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I think that was me misunderstanding what happened, because it shouldn't load until there. And then once it subscribes, then it starts going. Okay, but what if you want behavior, what if you want this to act like and observable to start with. Well, then you need to change this to use client effect. That's all you have to change. And there it goes. So the client effect, when it runs, it's going to set up this and subscribe to it. Let's see. Right. The fact that this is running, hang on. Right. So this is inside a client effect. So this actually runs the first time, not just any time. So I'm actually wondering if it cleans it up twice. I think I said something stupid there. It runs the first time and anytime the ID changes. So let's, where store.id. Okay, so, oh gosh, there's so much here. Is it going to, okay, it's actually console logging a 1, which means it unsubscribed at first and then subscribed again. So I need to fix this. I may need to have different behavior based on what you're using. So you may need to call a different function depending on if you're using client effect or use watch. Because with use watch, you have to wait for you actually have to, I really don't understand how this works exactly. I'm going to take away the track and try to understand this again. Wait, what? Okay, so this works, but it's the case where you use watch. And it doesn't subscribe even when it should. So here, it doesn't define it. So why not? Oh, I think I know what to do. Don't track ID. Hang on. Well, what I think I have to do is create separate functions for this, because if this is starting it, we don't want it to track activated, because activate is a thing that will happen. Yeah, it's complicated, but I think I need to separate this. Okay, I think I fixed it. Refresh, load, 1, good, yep. Now if we change this to use watch and not client, then we get nothing. And then change this. 1, 2, okay, yep, that works. Okay, all right, finally that's working. Okay, so that's the other behavior. So this isn't eagerly loading, but one of these can trigger it. It'll all load at once, and this will also get subscribed to, like it should have been from the beginning. Anyway, so that's I think that's the behavior, and I kind of showed you the other behavior already. Basically, the idea is this loads immediately because it's a client effect. As soon as this is visible on the screen, this will run. So what happens here is, if we look at this, it's loaded just this client effect at first. So look at this. That is what has opened up. And it needs stuff from RxJS because it's defined as an interval and it's subscribing. So that's already getting set, but everything downstream can still be lazy loaded until this, well, wait. It can be lazy loaded when, yeah, so let's change this to 10 seconds again. This is why I wanted to do this. So you go here. It has already started. This is subscribed already. And it's only when the first value runs that anything downstream needs to be loaded. So it's immediately subscribing. to that 10-second interval. And that's RxJS. It's all loaded, but nothing else downstream cares until it emits a value, which the first value is 0. And then everything downstream loads. Okay, so those are all the behaviors that I wanted to support. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Well, there's this last one. An existing Qwik store pushes values into an observable, and RxJS lazy loads. That one's actually pretty easy. I don't demo it though. It's this use subject from store function. It's super easy. I mean, you got your own. So you have a Qwik store already, but it needs its own store that represents the RxJS. And then the initial state is going to be the same thing as the Qwik store. And then it's just going to watch for that store to change. And then it's going to super, super easy. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I am too lazy to demo that. So that's what I've demoed. All right. Okay. So yeah, in the next video and article, I will go through more of the implementation. If you really want to, you can pause the video as I scroll over this, but I'm pretty happy about the visualization I came up with too. So looking forward to showing that off. Oh, I guess you weren't looking at my code there, so you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, look at this. Instead of waiting, I put a delay between each step and how it actually works as it like traverses the RxJS graph, and then eventually causes an error apparently. I mean, it worked, so I don't know. I'll have to look into this, but anyway, so yeah, that is going to be, there's more to show with that next time when I go through exactly how it works. So, yep. All right. Thanks for watching, and if you have any interesting ideas, go to the article in the description and click on that link and comment your ideas or in YouTube. I don't care. Just I want to hear ideas you might have about how to be more efficient in implementing this. But basically, the limitation is Qwik is like the API you have to work through the Qwik stores in order to get the lazy loading stuff. Also, I tweeted about this, and Manu on the Qwik team told me about a thing called no serialize. That probably would have been helpful for me to have read the docs about already, but I bet it might make the implementation way simpler. So we'll see how it changes. But as of now, at least, I keep forgetting I can't see my screen, but at least there is a way to use RxJS in Qwik. So that's nice. But if over time, I think even the Angular developers who are really interested in Qwik because of Miško Hevery being the guy who made it, I think that they'll see how you can get declarative code with just custom hooks. So I hope, I wrote another article about that. You can just Google it, I guess. I don't want to put the link to everything in the world in this description. React doesn't need RxJS. The same thing applies to Qwik. Actually, you know what? I already posted a video about that. That's what I did the first video on Qwik about. So, all right. So, thanks for watching. All right. See ya.